Okay, so this is just a short little video about my first 30 days in the Philippines. This was actually a request from one of my subscribers. He had asked that I do a video about the first day, the first month, the first year. And I thought that was a good suggestion. There's a lot of changes that take place in that kind of time frame. So I already did the video about my first day here. I think it's I forgot the title of it, but it's 24 hours in Cebu, something like that. And the bottom line is the first 24 hours that I spent in the country was just complete mayhem. If it could go wrong, it did. But the next day, after that was all over, I was extremely optimistic and hopped on the bus and started my trek out here to Dumaguete. And as I rolled through the countryside, it's about a 6-7 hour ride from Cebu to Dumaguete via bus. I started to get a little, not apprehension, but a little bit of, I was excited, I was happy, I've been dreaming about doing this forever and ever, it seemed. I had realized my wish, my dream, that I was out of the States, I was away from the aggravation that I faced on a day-to-day basis, and I was over here to start all over. So that optimism was still there, but I could feel this kind of presence coming over me that was a little gloomy, I think is a good word. I looked at the countryside, and it was beautiful, it was green, it was different than what I was accustomed to. My point of reference to all this was in 2009 to 2010, I had lived in Thailand, and I really loved it there. The people were beautiful, the food was delicious, the culture was very, very interesting. The infrastructure was really good, and that was where I fell in love with Southeast Asia. So 2009, 2010, I lived in Thailand. I went back to the States and kind of finished up the last 8 years living and working there. And I had set my goals on retiring in Asia. So prior to coming out here, I had originally thought about going back to Thailand, but Thailand is not all that expat friendly as far as visas, as far as banking. They require that you have health care. There's a laundry list of things that makes it fairly difficult to go back there. And so I did all my research on Google and YouTube and whatnot, and decided that the Philippines was the best option for me. So I made the move. I did my 24 hours in Cebu. I'm now on my way to Dumaguete. And in my mind, somewhere along the line, between living in America and going to the Philippines, I had envisioned the Philippines as being just like Thailand, but they spoke English. And it's, we believe what we want to believe, at least I do. And I had just enough time to create this little perfect scenario in my head. And as I rode the bus from Cebu to Dumaguete, I started to realize that I had been completely wrong about my little fantasy. I said, well, we're not in Thailand, Paul. This looks more like Mexico. And I kind of felt a little disappointment creep into me, even early on. The people were a little stockier than I had envisioned or that I'd experienced in Thailand. I could tell that the infrastructure was not nearly as sophisticated as it was there. The food, I didn't know yet because I hadn't been amongst it. But as I watched the road, as every mile clicked by and I saw all the food stands and whatnot, I saw that there was a lot of similarities from one to the other. Where in Thailand, when I lived there was a lot of variety. I mean, if you walked by 15 different food stands, there were 15 different things going on. Where here, as we drove by these open air places to eat, I just saw monotony. It looked like everybody had 5 or 6 dishes of the same thing set out, and not fresh, to eat. So I said, okay, it's cool. Let's keep an eye on the prize here. The big picture is to get out of the States. The big picture is to live small and just try to start a new life, maybe rekindle the love life, and let's just hang on to those goals. So get into Dumaguete. I check into a hotel. I spend a couple of days there, and I finally decide to rent an apartment at a place called the Hermagina, which is a month-to-month place, which was perfect because that's what I needed. I needed a home base that I could operate out of, and until I could actually find a permanent apartment. So one thing that struck me was I was really getting the first few days, and then the first 3 or 4 days, and then 5 or 6 days, I felt myself getting really frustrated. There were a lot of little nuances that I figured I'd get used to, and I was laughing at myself because things were going wrong. But after a while, a lot of little things sort of add up and just irritated me. For example, it was very difficult to go to any small business without anything more than exact change. So if I wanted to buy a pack of cigarettes at a Sorry store, and we'll just say they cost 100 pesos for a pack of cigarettes, my first attempt to do that, I gave them 1,000 peso note, which is 20 bucks. They couldn't break it. They opened up a business without the ability to break a $20 bill or 1,000 peso note. And at first I thought it was just them. At first I thought it was just because it was early in the morning. But as the month ground on, I realized that unless I went to a fairly big retailer, I was going to have a lot of small bills on me. And I wasn't used to carrying a lot of cash. So in the States, I always use a debit card. And I kept reminding myself, okay, you're not in the States anymore. You're going to have to acclimate. This is their country. You're going to have to fit in. They're not going to change to accommodate you. But it's still, I found it was irritating me. Within the first week or so, I had to struggle to do just about anything. I went to go buy sheets and pillows and all this and that and the other for the apartment because it came naked. I bought the wrong size sheets. So when I got back to the apartment, I opened up the package, tried to put the sheets on. I realized they were wrong. I called the manager up. She gave me the dimensions of the bed, which is what I should have done in the first place, but I didn't. And I packed everything back up, took the receipt, went back to Robinson's, and it took 5 hours to get somebody over to sign off on returning a frigging $20 set of sheets. Did I mention it was really hot? I was super, super hot, morning, noon, and night. And there was no break. It was just as hot at 11 o'clock at night as it was at 11 o'clock in the afternoon or in the morning. Did I mention that I couldn't stay in my apartment between the hours of 2 o'clock and 6 o'clock? Because the way they had the windows situated and the way that the sun came in, it was literally impossible to stay in the apartment. It was that hot. You could turn on the air, you could close the drapes. So for 4 hours a day, every day, unless it rained, I had to just go hang out at the mall. I think I had a sign on my head that said, "Take advantage of me." I had there was a yaya, a lady boy yaya that was at the apartment across from me. And she offered to, a yaya is like a housekeeper, child care deal. And a lady boy is a guy that dresses up like a woman. It's gay. And so this lady boy made friends with me real fast and was offering to do things like clean my apartment and do the laundry and run errands and help me with this and help me with that. And at first I thought she was just, being friendly and trying to make a couple of bucks. I admire that. That's cool. Well, it turns out that she was doing all of that. She would go in and clean the apartment and she would do the laundry, but the laundry would take 4 or 5 days, and the apartment she would clean in about 45 minutes. And I found out later that she was charging me triple of what she should have been charging me. And she was kind of pilfering a little money here and there that I had stashed around the place. So that was kind of irritating. Within the first 30 days, I think on day 12 or day 13, I actually had a small stroke while I was at Robinson's, buying yet more stuff for the apartment because I'd forgotten to buy it the last time I went. And I went to the hospital. I thought that I'd had a heart attack, but that wasn't the case. The doctor checked me out about 2 hours after they had me, and they checked my EKG and all this and that. They said, well, your blood pressure's fine. Your heart's okay. You've had a small stroke. I said, well, what do I do? And they said, well, here's a little bit of medication that you can take. And basically, you just need to rest and hydrate. I said, okay, no problem. And as they were checking me out, the physician, the female physician, when she saw I was single, she started grinding on me about being single and why I'm alone and am I looking for a partner. And I thought, this is the weirdest experience I've ever had, especially in this kind of situation. Here, I've just been through this, well, to me, it was a trauma. And some 50-year-old Filipino lady is hitting on me, and my doctor, to boot. Every time I turned on my computer onto Facebook, I would get, I don't know how many hundreds of friend requests. And about 80% of it were girls that were seeing that I was new here in the Philippines. And about 80% of them were wanting me to send them money so that they could come meet me. The world's oldest scam. In fact, I've got a video about scamming on the channel here. I hired a trike driver to drive me around in week number 3 to go look for an apartment. And I gave him 1,000 pesos for like about 4 or 5 hours of work, which is fair. There's no argument there. But he didn't really speak English, and he had been referred to me. And I kept trying to explain to him where I wanted to go and what I wanted to look at. And I made some things perfectly clear to him, that I don't want this and I don't want that, so let's not waste time looking at it. And so out of a 5-hour day, I think we spent about 3 hours doing just that, wasting time, looking at what I didn't want to see. But he felt compelled to show that to me because, we were there and he wanted me to look at it, or his friend was renting it. He wanted me to check it out. Speaking of trike drivers, whenever I would take an independent trike somewhere, this is where the sign came in that said, take advantage of me. They must have just seen the deer in the headlight looks in my eyes and in my face and my body language. Because I would say, take me to this restaurant. I want to go check that out. And they would take me there. And I would say, okay, well, how much? And they all said the same thing to me. They said, up to you. I could feel my blood pressure just going up to here because they knew that I didn't know. And again, shame on me. I should have known. I should have known that a trike ride from there to there cost 25 pesos. So I just gave everybody 100. It's $2 to me. At the time, I was saying, you know what, this is only $2. This guy humps it out all day. I couldn't do what he does. I have empathy. I have sympathy. I like to be a generous guy. If he was halfway decent guy, I would have given him the 100 anyway, if he'd have said the fare was 25. But I get pissed off when I know that I'm being taken advantage of. So that was the first 3 weeks here. I rented an apartment. I was having that was hot. I couldn't live in for 4 hours every day unless it rained. I had a Bayou living across from me that was stealing from me. I had a doctor that after treating me tried to hit on me. I had trike drivers overcharging me. Of course, I had the stroke. We'll throw that in for good measure. And I was finally on week number 3, I just went and rented a scooter. And I enjoyed the independence of the scooter, but I was horrified driving in the traffic here. And did I mention it was hot? One thing that I really wasn't prepared for was all the pollution. You get behind, you're on a scooter and you get behind one of these big jeepneys or a trike or a bus or even a friggin' car or a scooter. And it seems like everybody is squirting out black smoke and it's just going straight into your face. And I'm a smoker and I never had a smoker's cough in my life. I think 2 days on that scooter driving behind these things, I couldn't stop coughing. So that was tearing me up. So I started to evaluate things. And I had always told myself before I came out here, actually I didn't tell myself, I told other people. Because people would say, why are you going to the Philippines? Aren't you scared? Aren't you nervous? What if you don't like it? What if it's dangerous? What if this? What if that? And I always said to people, you know what? It's a plane ticket away back. It's $500 and I'm back home. So if I go out there and I don't like it, I can always just go home. So I guess to sum up my first 30 days is I had gone through this psycho 24 hours in Cebu. I realized after I got out here that I certainly wasn't in Thailand. I had yet to find, in 30 days, I had yet to find a meal that I could say I actually enjoyed. I think the stress of trying to get a phone, trying to change money, trying to make sure that I had exact change to buy whatever knick-knack I needed, being pointed in the wrong direction if I asked anyone for directions, not being able to communicate with almost everybody, getting lost, realizing that the infrastructure was really subpar. Oh, and the internet was at about 5% of what I was accustomed to, both at home and in Thailand. And so many times, like if I was going to transfer money or try to get something done or get directions, I would get halfway through it and it would just explode and go away. So that kind of sums up my first 30 days. And I got to tell you that buying that plane ticket and getting the hell out of here was really starting to come to the front of my mind. And I was really, really, really seriously considering just giving up on the whole thing. All right, guys, I'll talk to you later.